back to Tie Down TV, the punk rock opinion show with me, Geoff.
And Danny.
Today we're going to do top 5 hip-hop albums for punks, hardcore. Yeah?
Well, people watching this might say, why is a punk show doing a hip-hop episode?
Yeah.
So, I think it's obvious, though, that there's there's connections between the two.
Exactly.
Quite
I think
obviously.
Punk, hardcore, hip-hop, all kind of, a lot of it comes from the same place. I mean, when I say same place, I mean emotionally, mentality.
Yeah.
It's very, can be pushing against establishment, anti-authoritarian.
Only some of it, though. Because,
of course.
Because I think now, when you look at some of the stuff that claims to be hip-hop, there's not an anti-establishment about it.
It's not for me. A lot of that sort of commercialised.
A lot of it is very much for the masses,
and they
isn't
want them. It's all about the money and stuff. But yeah, I like for me, like when I got into hip hop. I mean, you're the same age as me, so you'll probably remember this. But I was thinking about it before. I think the first kind of instance where I was like, oh, I really like this song was, do you remember when It's Like That came out with Run DMC versus Jason Evans?
Yeah, it's a great
about 97,
back in the day,
I think. So I was about 12 when that came out, and I think, fucking hell, that's cool. I'm watching the video of them all breakdancing and that.
Yeah.
And then it was probably Eminem with My Name Is. And I'm not sure on the timeline exactly, with Busta Rhymes as well, Give Me Some Mo on that Extinction Level Event album. And then I think the Wu-Tang with the W album, Gravel Pit.
Yeah.
And a mate of mine in school had it on CD, the album, and was listening to it. It's like, yeah, it's fucking great, this. And I took it home and got a copy of it off him. And then I was out shopping with one of my mates, and he was into that Wu-Tang album as well. So he was like, oh yeah, I'll buy this one as well. And it was, what I think we'd probably talk about first.
Well, hang on, just before we jump in. I've actually got to give you credit, because it was probably you who turned me into it. I probably have to give you credit for making me realise how good hip hop could be, and by that I'm gonna lead up to what you were about to say. Keep your hand off it,
no,
please.
That's all right.
So basically, what it was, I think when we were kids, the G-Funk thing was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Growing up in the mid to late 90s, that whole G-Funk West Coast thing was massive, and all our mates were into it. I never liked it. I was never into it. I just wasn't into any of that type of stuff at all. And it was only when we were like 17 years old, I was round at yours one day, and you introduced me to the album you're desperate to pick up. The pound, the penny, the proverbial penny dropped finally with me, and I thought, wow, this to me is what real hip hop is, and that's when I realised how good it could be. Absolutely. Not hearing the stuff that I'd heard up until that point, which I'm talking about a lot of the Death Row record stuff, which was just not really my thing, really.
I was into that a little bit, because like I say, I got into Eminem, so by the proxy then, when Dr. Dre dropped 2001, and the second Eminem album, I was into all that.
Yeah.
Still quite like some of it, but I'm not a big Snoop Dogg fan or anything like that kind of stuff, and much like you in hip hop, I definitely gravitated more towards the East Coast than the West Coast stuff.
Yeah, but it was this album, you introduced me to this album, which then started my love affair with hip hop. So show them the album.
So you don't know that, obviously. Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. From the 36 Chambers. For me, the greatest of all hip hop albums.
Yeah.
That's it. Neither of us have actually picked it in our 5, because we might have had a little fight about it if we had to.
Oh, well, I think we both agree that it's probably the greatest hip hop album.
It's the gold standard, for me. And again, much like Danny said, so as I was saying before, when my mate actually bought this, he bought it blind, we didn't know any tracks off it, and we were listening to it, and it's just like, makes you pull that kind of face, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like an angry, every beat, every line hits hard, and much like punk, hardcore, I think there's connections there, and a lot of it's all coming from that same place, like I said, but got to shout that out, because we both pretty much agree, like we say.
What we're saying there about like the similarities of punk and hip hop is, to me, it started off a DIY thing.
Yeah.
It was anti-establishment.
Yeah.
It was angry.
Yeah.
It was sticking it to a man, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously there was always going to be a connection there. Then obviously there's stuff like graffiti that's kind of in with both.
And the breakdancing as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't see many people breakdancing in punk. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to claim to know, like, to be a big expert of, like, the beginnings of hip-hop. I mean, to me, you look at an album like Gil Scott-Heron's Pieces of Man, which is, like, you hear the first song, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. You hear something like that, and that's, if there's a such thing as proto-rap, that's got to be it to me. And then you look at films that were coming out in the 70s, like Shaft and Superfly and Dolomite, seem to influence that whole attitude. And then bands like Funkadelic and Parliament, you know.
All the G-Funk bands sampled all that.
That seemed to me to be the start of it, and then after that, like you say, breakdancing, and then all of that came along.
I kind of think as well that you can trace a lot, some of it back to dub and toasting. So, you know, when they play like dub records and you'd get like an MC would get up and he'd just freestyle over it, which I kind of think some of that probably comes from a bit of that as well. But again, much like Danny, I'm definitely no expert.
No.
On that aspect of it,
but it's a genre we both love, and we felt it fitted. And this isn't like something where you can just sit there and think, oh, these are running out of content now. We said at the beginning we would eventually do a hip hop list, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%.
So but we both agree that Enter the Wu-Tang is probably both what we think is the gold standard of
nothing's
hip-hop.
Touched it for me since.
Yeah, but my first pick, and what I'm going to go for first, I've gone for Enter the Stage, Black Moon from 1993. This was one of the first like hip hop albums I ever really loved. From the second I heard the first song, Powerful Impact. The main rapper Buckshot is like his flow is great. The beats are done by the Beat Miners. The Beat Miners. And it's the beats are one of the things that make it really good, you know what I mean? And this alongside Enter the Wu-Tang and Illmatic and stuff like I'm Ready to Die, which I'm not a huge Biggie fan, but those albums, it was one of them albums that kind of led that New York Renaissance at the time. This has also got one of the first appearances by Smith & Wesson appear on this, as do Mobb Deep. So it's got some big hitters appearing on here. And it's very, very street, very gritty, that kind of thing, which is what I really love. And this was probably, apart from Wu-Tang, one of the first ones. This and Onyx, I know Onyx album is really on my list, but it was that kind of thing that started off my love affair with hip-hop. And like I say, very, very street, very gritty, violent, that kind of thing. I'd definitely check it out. Enter the Stage by Black Moon.
Nice. Well, my first proper pick is one that Danny's actually just mentioned, and it's a stone cold classic. It's Illmatic by Nas. It's from '94. This fucking huge album, probably behind Enter the Wu-Tang, maybe my favourite hip hop album.
It's a masterpiece
from front to back. But the tunes on it, like New York State of Mind, obviously, Halftime, Life's a Bitch, fucking Hell, The World Is Yours. It's every tune. The last song, It Ain't Hard to Tell, is fucking class as well.
Yeah.
It's all, again, it's quite gritty. You know, it's telling stories coming from Queensbridge in Queens, and you know, drugs, gangs, all that. But the wordplay is so fucking clever. It's intelligent. You know, it's got Q-Tip, DJ Premier producing on it, a few others as well. I think, like I say, I can't, like, it's an absolute classic. I read somewhere as well that when they were recording the album, they were like, he was in the booth and they were like, oh, you know, you're recording? And he was like, oh, okay, and he just started, and they kept that first verse of that first take, which was for New York State of Mind. So that first verse apparently was in one go, and they were all kind of like in the studio thinking, yeah, this kid's gonna be huge. But yeah, Nas, like, you know, used to be Nasty Nas, I think, before he dropped this first album. But yeah, if you know, if you want to get into hip hop, this would be a gateway, because it's quite short, really, for a hip hop album.
It is, yeah.
It's only about 40 minutes, whereas some hip hop albums could be, you know, over an hour easy. Yeah. So I think this would be a good starting point. But it's classic, well beater, Illmatic.
My next pick is an album I've waxed lyrical about this album for years. I've gone Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous by Big L. Now, I'm going to make a claim here. This, like I say, this is the Punk Rock Opinion Show, so it is all opinion, but I'm going to make an opinion here. You know, when it comes to rapping, out of both our lists, I think he's the best rapper.
Okay.
I honestly do. I when it comes to just rapping, I think he's the best. Okay. I honestly do. If you listen to this album, right now, we were obviously recently on the other guy, you know, the other podcast, and I spoke about this, and Big L is, some of the stuff he says, he's dark, he's vicious, he is vicious, and he doesn't care if you're white, black, man, woman, gay, straight, kid, adult, old, young. He's going for everybody. He is going for everybody. And one of the reviews I read about this is Big L comes with metaphors that stun, sure to have suckers on the run. Now, you can definitely understand what the person meant by that, because the first two songs, it kind of lets you in, because it's not, we're not going to say radio friendly, but it's a little bit easier, the first couple of songs.
Like a tease.
Yeah, to kind of let you go. But by song 3, 4, and then onwards, this takes a very, very, very dark turn. And some of the stuff he says on here, like, sometimes as you're laughing, but other times you're gobsmacked. You're like, as he really just said, have I really just heard that?
Ha-ha, ooh, kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But the stuff, I honestly think, I mean, unfortunately, he got killed in a drive-by in Harlem, which is where he's from. And it's kind of funny, because when you hear the stuff he says, I think there's a line actually where he mentions about having a death wish, and he's trying to make gangsters flip by what he says.
Right.
So it's almost like he's saying, I'm gonna, I don't give a, come and get me. I'm after everyone. That's how vicious he is.
Right.
A very unforgiving in his lyrics. Genius. Some of the, like I said, some of the stuff. A Tech 9 is my utensil. I filled with so much lead, they can use their dick as a pencil. Do you know what I mean? Just stuff like that. It's full of stuff like that, and I just think he's a genius. It's one of my favourite albums of all time, and it is quite shocking with some of the stuff he says, but it's genius, and he was a genius, I believe. Big L, Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous.
Cool. Okay, number 2 for me. Let's go for another pretty much a classic one. I've gone for It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. I was pretty close between this and, of course, the classic being Fear of a Black Planet, but I thought, nah, I'll go with this. It's just, again, I mean, there's so much has been fucking written about this, but when you're talking about connection between punk and
doesn't get
hip-hop,
more punk than that, does it?
It doesn't get more punk than that. The lyrics, obviously, completely, social conscious lyrics and going hard on everything, really. It's the second album. The first one's pretty good as well, to be fair. Yo Bum Rush the Show, but it's a bit slower, I think. They said that cause when they were playing live, it was getting like up tempo, so they decided for this they wanted to go full on, so when they played live it was like an onslaught. And they said they wanted to create the hip-hop Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, in terms of lyrically social conscious as well. But the influence of this is far and wide, not just in hip-hop, like in rock and metal, punk, all over the place. These are very influential. Fugazi being a prime example, the song Waiting Room, and he's doing the backing bits. He said himself, took all that from Flavor Flav, that's what they were listening to at the time. It's just fucking amazing. Still, again, much like Nas and the Wu-Tang, it's one of my all-time favourite hip-hop albums, one of my all-time favourite albums. Absolutely just a fucking stone cold classic. If you don't know it, then go and know it.
My next pick is a CD. Unfortunately, I don't have it on vinyl. I've never seen it on vinyl, actually. I've gone Kool G Rap 456. Quite similar to Big L in the terms of the darkness. I wouldn't say he's quite as brutal as Big L. So to speak, but there's a lot of like gang talk, shall we say, on this album. A lot of violence. It's the first. This guy was known for his stuff with DJ Polo. I think he did 3 albums with DJ Polo.
Right.
And this was his first one without DJ Polo. I think they'd had a falling out over a dispute over an album cover that caused a bit of bad press. But this is from 1995, and much like what he said about Illmatic, the thing with this album is it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it's about 35 minutes, and it does leave you wanting more. And again, similar to Big L, similar to Wu-Tang, the beats are dark, very dark. And only these types of rappers could rap over stuff like beats that are that dark, because for it to be convincing, do you know what I mean? If you couldn't have like fucking Will Smith, rapping over this type of stuff.
I'd be interested to hear him try, to be fair.
You know what I mean? It's just, but yeah, I was listening to this again today, and I was just thinking every single song. There's one song on it, right? There's how many tunes are on this? There's 11 tunes on this. There's one song that, like, every song's dead dark, right? There's one tune, I think it's like, It's a Shame, or what it might be towards the end, and it's literally, it goes from all these dead dark beats to like a Teletubbies tune. You know what I mean? And you're kind of like, hey? But then it goes back to the darkness again. But yeah, 456 by Kool G Rap, into that hardcore hip hop from the mid-90s from New York. Check that out.
Very fucking good. Okay, so pick number 3 for me. I've gone a little bit off left field a little bit. I've gone for Madvillany by Madvillan, which is the collaboration of, by Madlib and MF Doom, aka Doom, aka Metal Face, aka Metal Fingers, aka Victor Vaughan, etc, etc, etc. This, again, much like I said about Public Enemy, I was very close to picking Food or even Operation Doomsday, which I also got there, but when I thought about it, I actually listened to all 3 of them this week and I was like, nah, this is my favourite, this is the one. It's like a fucking work of art when I listen to this. I think it's so dark.
Well, he did have a bit more artistic stuff going on than a lot of rappers, didn't he?
Definitely crossed over as well into more... Like, I've seen a lot of punk and hardcore kids repping MF Doom merch, etc. And then indie kids and things like that. He was all over the music press, wasn't he, at one point? But this album, like I say, it's like cinematic. His lyrics are very free associative almost at times on it. Like, is he saying anything? Like, or you can sort of twist it into meaning a lot. Wordplay, those outstanding, amazing. Off-kilter beats, and like his rapping's quite slow on it and layered over. Like, again, much like you were saying there about like the kind of beats on this. There's not many people I don't think who could rap on them and actually sound fucking good.
Yeah.
And he sounds fucking amazing on this. And I love that artwork, man. I think that's so cool. It looks so dark and menacing. But yeah, like I say, this was the one and only album they did together, although there was constant rumours about them doing another one. But for me, this is his magnum opus. I can't say much more about it really, other than just how fucking great it is. But yeah, go and check it out. It's brilliant.
Yeah. My next one is probably the easiest listening out of all my picks in terms of if there was ever gonna be any of these that were radio friendly. It's also the only one that's not from the East Coast, and I've gone for 93 Till Infinity by Souls of Mischief. Now, these are from Oakland, California, so it kind of goes against what I've picked. Like most people know, I like the New York East Coast stuff. But the difference, I think, with these guys compared to a lot of other stuff on the West Coast is this came out at the pinnacle of G-Funk, when all that stuff was going on. Mm-hmm. But they kept it a lot more underground. They instead of that kind of sound, there was a lot more funk and jazz, but still dark. You know what I mean? So it still had that underground feel to it. Mm-hmm. The title track is a bit of a classic anyway, and it's been sampled a lot since then by a lot of like newer rappers.
Yeah,
it's very influential in that way. But the best tune, Live and Let Live, the way the piano comes in and everything halfway through the chorus is just amazing. But yeah, in terms of West Coast, this to me stands head and shoulders above anything that I've heard.
Okay.
But like I say, I'm not a huge fan of stuff that came from the West Coast really. But this doesn't really sound like a typical West Coast rap album. It's amazing, and look at that for a cool picture on the back there. There you go.
Nice. Okay, 4 for me. I got another obvious one really, but got to be done. Ill Communication, Beastie Boys. Once again, if we're going to talk about a connection between punk and hardcore and hip hop, here it is right here. Used to be a hardcore band called the Beastie Boys because they wanted to be BB, like Bad Brains. It's one of many Beastie Boys classic albums, to be fair. The run of Paul's Boutique, Check Your Head, and this, almost unmatched in hip hop, I don't think, for a 3-album run. But what connects this properly, if you wanted to say to someone who's into punk or hardcore, here you go, there's something that might ease you in, is obviously the tracks Tough Guy and Heart Attack Man being straight up hardcore songs. As I said, they're a band who used to play hardcore anyway.
Didn't we try and cover one of their songs back in the day?
We did try to do Heart Attack Man, maybe. Yeah. It was one of them too, anyway, because we were both listening to this, weren't we, at the time? And obviously the big tune on here, like Sabotage, but it's just fucking, it's amazing, isn't it? Like, Get It Together's on here as well, actually, with Q-Tip, which is a fucking underrated Beastie Boys tune. Obviously Sure Shot, Flute Loops is amazing. It's great. Like, this is quite a long album, but it doesn't outstay its welcome for me. It's absolutely stunning. It goes all over the place stylistically, but yeah, it's fucking amazing. Again, if you're gonna get into hip hop and you want to start somewhere, Beastie Boys are obviously also a pretty good place to start.
It's funny there you should mention Q-Tip. It was Perfect Q.
Yeah.
Hey. Perfect Q. because Q-Tip, I know, did a lot of the production and beats on this album. It's not a Q-Tip album. Nope. It is my last pick, and that's Mobb Deep, the infamous. Now, this, I love Mobb Deep, especially the first two albums, this and Juvenile Hell. Now, I could have picked either one. This is obviously more mature. When they did Juvenile Hell, they were literally kids. Brilliantly descriptive about life in the streets of New York. You know, they actually said it was hearing Illmatic by Nas that made them realise on their first album, Juvenile Hell, they told their story wrong. They'd told it in an immature, incorrect way, and it was hearing Illmatic. Yeah. And you hear about all these East Coast rappers talking about how influential Illmatic was. But, you know, lyrics of prison, murder, the rules of the street, growing up in the projects, selling drugs. It's all there, but it's all there with catchy beats and amazing rhymes. I think, similar to the albums we've picked, it is a bit of a gold standard, along with Enter the Wu-Tang, Illmatic.
Of fucking classic.
Yeah, man. You know, of that real dark street style, though. And I think a tune might even appear in 8 Mile with Eminem, from what I can remember. I think he raps over what's it called? Ain't no such things as halfway crooks. Shook ones, isn't it? Is it that? I'm pretty sure it's that anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but yeah. Mobb Deep, the infamous. There you go.
Cool. Alright, well, if we're going to continue on that Q-Tip train, my last pick, Low End Theory, Tribe Called Quest. Amazing band, amazing hip-hop. Q-Tip, I think he's featured on about 3 or 4 of my picks. He was on Illmatic as well.
Yeah.
But this is just classic East Coast New York hip-hop. I think this came out in 91. You know, one of the first to infuse jazz into it, basically.
Probably similar to Souls of Mischief.
Yeah, very much so. And, you know, the Low End Theory, you know, I think partly in reference to the low frequency of the bass and stuff on here. It feels quite warm sometimes, like I'm wrapped in it, but it's quite spacious still at the same time. But songs like Bugging Out, Scenario, Check the Rhyme, just all every tune on it is fucking amazing, to be fair.
You know what I loved about bands like them, groups like them and EPMD, is they could give you that funkiness, but they could go hard as well.
Oh yeah,
they could go really hard when they wanted.
Smooth, slick, and then they could fucking come at you. Like,
them and like EPMD remind me of
very
that
much
type
so.
of group who could do that.
These again are a fucking amazing band. They've got quite a few really good albums. This is the pick of the bunch for me though, and this was one I got quite early as well. I was probably in late teens when I got onto this album, and yeah, it's just fucking, it's outstanding, like I say. But if you want to get into hip hop again, this is probably an easy introduction because it is catchy, it's smooth, and then it's got some big like explosive moments. But yeah, Low End Theory, check it out.
Do you have a honourable mention?
Ooh,
now this has got to be easy for you because we could have made a list of 10 of these albums.
It could. I'm just trying to think which one I actually want to pick. What's yours?
Okay, so you already know what mine is.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to go Return of the Boom Bap by KRS One. Nice. And the reason is because it accompanies a funny story. So I've actually seen KRS One live and it's brilliant, right? Now you talk about connections between punk and hip hop. These one of the punkest motherfuckers I've ever seen live.
Absolutely.
Like when I went to see KRS One, he was talking about how hip hop should stay out of big business and all that. Is that, but what's funny is everyone, this is a funny story. So Brian Sale, right? Everyone who watches this from Liverpool know Brian Sale, right? Anyone who's Brian Sale, he knows he can get. He takes a lot of photographs at a lot of gigs, and sometimes if he gets a backstage pass +1, and you're a friend of his, and he knows you'll like that. He'll say, I've got a +1 for this, do you want to come? So he's took me to quite a few things over the years. He said to me, do you want to come and see KRS One? I was like, too right, I want to come and see KRS One, amazing. Gotta say, it was one of the best shows I've ever been in terms of no one was, it was like a sardine can. No one was standing still. Like the place was rocking, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Halfway through the set, maybe like 3 songs into the set, Brian goes to me, I'm going to get down there, man, and get some better photos. So he runs down, and if you've been in the mask, it's kind of like goes down, doesn't it? Like a theatre kind of thing, it goes downwards. So he runs down, I can't see him because there's that much of a crowd. And now KRS One on Return of the Boom Bap's got a song called Outta Here, which is one of the best songs on it. It's really, really good. And that is actually about, you know, selling out and, you know, and all that type of stuff, and about what hip-hop should be and all this. And he was giving a talk, and he said, he was going on about hip-hop. He was like, hip-hop is not about big business. It's not about money. It's not about all this. And he goes, and it's definitely not about photographs in magazines. With that being said, get that little motherfucker out of here! Like that, right? And everyone looked down, and all the scene was these two big, massive fucking motherfuckers walking across the fucking stage, and Brian's little fucking curly moped running like that. And then he legged it, and I was like, what the hell's going on there? Anyway, 5 minutes later, my phone, like, what's going on? He was like, man, I've been kicked out. And he had been kicked out of he had been given a backstage pass to KRS One, and then got kicked out of it by KRS One, because KRS One didn't want anyone taking photos. That's pretty punk, in my opinion.
That's pretty cool.
He didn't want no one taking no photos at his gig. Not because, you know, it's not about making money. He just didn't think it belonged in
that space.
That space, yeah. This is for the people. He's there to do a show in front of the people. It's just for the people. You know, you paid your money. You know, he didn't want no one profiting, you know, from that. That's not what it was about. You know what I mean? And I always thought that was a really punk thing. So with that being said, what's your honourable mention?
So I'm going to go The Money Store by Death Grips, because they, again, very fucking punk in terms of how they operated and what they did. You know, got signed to a major label, recorded The Money Store, recorded a second album as well, and then it was called No Love Deep Web, and it was trying to release it, and the label was like, no, so they're like, oh, fuck that then, just put it up online for free, which obviously compromised sales and all that. They just like, fuck you, like they just wouldn't turn up to gigs sometimes, all mad shit. But yeah, if you know, go and look them up. They're fucking amazing. Like, bit chaotic, bit mad. But yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's my pick. Don't forget, like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you want some notifications, jump on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, and give us likes, follows, messages, and all that. And we'll see you next week. That's what I do. That's what I do.